was saying, guide us. They influence our judgments. They color the way that we see the world. Human emotions orient us to the places in our lives that need our attention the most. They organize our bodies in rich, complex ways, changing our cognition, our biochemistry, our physiology. It's truly incredible. It's kept us alive for tens of thousands of generations of our species. But there's something else that I've been thinking about that's related to human emotion, that's a part of this toolkit that I think might even be more profound, more interesting. And it's this ability that human beings have to take a step back and in this moment, witness, as if through the eyes of somebody else, what emotions we're feeling and what thoughts we're seeing. It's called meta-awareness. I'm actually kind of doing it right now. I feel my palms are getting a little sweaty when I'm up here. My heart is racing. It usually doesn't do that. My throat is getting a little dry. I feel that I'm inhaling a little bit more deeply than usual. I'm feeling a classic anxiety response. This is exactly what I should be feeling right now because there are 75 pairs of eyes in this room, and they're all on me. And that's anxiety-provoking. This is exactly the classic fear response. This is how my organism was programmed to respond to this exact situation. But despite this, I feel incredibly well right now. I feel very calm. I feel peaceful because I know that this is where I need to be right now. In this moment, right here, right now, I'm perfect. I'm whole. The fear doesn't really matter so much. It's just kind of additional information. And for me, this raises one of the most important questions that I've ever asked about my experience in this world, and that is, do I allow emotions to kind of make me feel trapped as they push and pull me through the extremes of pleasure and pain, through desire and fear, through pain, or through, let's say, shame and pride each and every day? Or do I take that step back? And do I start to witness my emotions as if through somebody else's eyes, start becoming aware of what's going on inside of my body each and every moment? And for me, this is a very important question, and it's one that I haven't asked really in my entire life until this journey over the last 5 years, where I've learned 3 key pieces of information that really changed my perspective in the world. But 5 years ago, I wasn't asking these types of questions. I was asking questions that dealt with human expression, body language. It's really cool stuff. To be able to sit around and watch people's expressions in their face and in their voice and in their bodies and try to make a guess as to what they're feeling. They're really complex, rich expressions. And I was totally obsessed by these things 5 years ago. I would sit around all day in cafes watching people. I would download YouTube clips of kids opening up presents and having a big surprise smile on their face. It was just fascinating to me, all these rich pieces of communication that we have to speak to one another without words. And I started asking this question of which expressions might be universal. How many might transcend cultures despite profound linguistic and cultural barriers? And at the time, the wisdom was that there were 6 universal expressions, all in the face. And there's surprise, fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and joy. And so these expressions were well tested in many, many different cultures, even remote places. And it was found that people could recognize them. But I've done some traveling too, and it seemed that, well, maybe there are more. Maybe there are more expressions in the face, and maybe there are other ways that our body can communicate emotion. We have a voice too. And so, in collaboration with 10 nations around the world, dozens and dozens of collaborators, we developed a human expression test that we sent all across the globe to 4 different continents, 10 nations, and we asked the question whether people could match expressions of emotion to stories, simple one-sentence stories that were translated and back-translated rigorously so that we knew that everybody was understanding the simple story. And we did this with facial expression, we did this with vocal expression, and by vocal expression, we all have heard these before, laughter, communicating joy without words, sadness, which is crying, and the ugh of disgust and the of contempt, and all these sounds that can communicate a rich body of emotions. And the results blew me away. After sending this off to 4 continents, testing the face and the voice for 22 different emotional states, we found that almost 30 of them were recognized very well at above chance rates in all 10 countries, in all 10 nations. It's fascinating. So for me, I started to see this pattern of connection between people through their emotion recognition. You'll see here every green check represents an emotional expression in the face or the voice that passed all 10 cultures. People were recognizing these. And it's incredible because it's a very stringent test. If one culture failed to recognize this expression, it was out. It's not universal. So these passed. And so it seemed to me that there was more to human expression that maybe had been previously reported. And that was about 2 years of my life in 2 slides. And here are the other 2 years. We took it one step further. So that was decoding. That's trying to recognize the expression. But what about encoding? Do people actually use these expressions, or can they just pick it up in a lineup? Do they actually express these in real time? So we did the same experiment with the same stories, except for we asked people in 5 countries, China, Japan, Korea, India, and the United States, to produce expressions. And we got all these expressions, 5,500 of them. Actually, it was 5,492, because I coded every single one of them, muscle by muscle, using a technique called the facial action coding system. So I ended up coding something like 25,000 facial muscles. These were, they were coded for reliability with 7 other coders who were trained in the same system, and we found these incredible patterns. But instead of showing you dozens and dozens of data tables, I wanted you to witness this for yourself, the way that I did, and to kind of feel what these people are expressing around the world. So I made a little video for you, where you get to see the story that these people were told, and then you get to see and hear some of their expressions. And I have an equal representation of all these 5 cultures, but I don't label what the culture is, because I want you to pay attention to the expression. It happens very fast. So I want you to enjoy this, and tell me what you think later. Your friend has just told you a very funny story, and you feel amused. You've been insulted, and you feel angry. You see the biggest waterfall in the world, and you feel awe.
Wow. Wow.
You're resting comfortably on a peaceful day, and you feel contented.